Hi, welcome to the Times of Israel's Daily Briefing. It is Tuesday, February 11th, and I'm Jessica Steinberg. I'm speaking today with political correspondent Tal Schneider and diaspora reporter Zev Stubb. Good morning to you both.
Hi, Jessica.
Good morning.
Hey there. It is day 494 of the war. This morning, Kibbutz Kisufim announced that the oldest hostage, Shlomo Mansour, 86, one of its members, and the only hostage thought to have been taken from Kisufim, was killed on October 7th, his body taken hostage to Gaza by Hamas terrorists. The family of twins Ziv and Gali Berman, who were taken captive from Kibbutz Kfar Aza, and the only remaining hostages from Kfar Aza, received signs of life of their two sons and brother. We'll talk about that as well as the expected delay in the next hostage release in the ceasefire as Hamas alleges a truce violation by Israel. We'll also talk about the theological and budgetary struggles of the World Zionist Organization as they gear up for their upcoming vote in March, as well as a bit about the OU, the Orthodox Union in Israel. All of that after a quick break. Okay, Tal. So we've received the difficult, and you and I were just saying maybe slightly expected news this morning of the death of Shlomo Mansour, the oldest hostage at 86, as well as signs of life of hostages Ziv and Gali Berman, the twin brothers from Kfar Aza, presumably from one of the recently released hostages. Tell us what you're hearing and thinking this morning about that aspect of the hostages at this moment.
Right, so Shlomo Mansour, almost 87 next week or so, one of the founders of Kibbutz Kisufim, and he was a kid who survived the Farhud massacre in Iraq, and that was brought him to Israel when he was a young man and went straight into Kibbutz Kisufim. He was murdered probably on October 7th. So that's what we hear right now. We don't know more details than that. But I think from what we hear, Jessica, is that the information about his murder is unrelated to the fact that we had 3 hostages coming back home on Saturday, because they brought, as it seems, they brought a lot of information about live hostages. And so we know this from this morning. We know about Alon Hoyle, of course, about Elia Cohen. And now we are hearing Gali and Ziv Berman, the twins, who were 26 when they were kidnapped, but they're now almost, the 27 and a half, if you may. And the 4 young men are alive and held in horrible conditions. In the tunnels, haven't seen a daylight since the beginning of the war, and being, I don't know about all of them, but some of them are chained and unable to move. Really horrific stories. And as you probably heard maybe yesterday on the podcast, Alon Hoyle is also wounded in his eye, one of his eyes. So really gruesome information. And I think the 3 hostages that went out in a terrible condition brought with them lots of intelligence to Israel about the whereabouts of some of the hostages. For some of the families is a semi-relief, because they know, for as per Alon and Elia, their parents did not know anything at all about their son. As per Gali and Ziv, we know they were kidnapped from Kibbutz Kfar Aza, and they were at the beginning of the captivity. They were held together with some of the women. So some of the women inside the captivity have seen them. That is almost year and 4 months ago, a long time ago. So this is the only information that we now have.
Right, obviously, and if there's more, it'll be told over the coming days. And then we move from that into the announcement from Hamas yesterday that Israel has violated the ceasefire and they're not going to release the expected 3 or 4 hostages this coming Saturday. What are you hearing about that? And from there, we can go into what President Donald Trump is saying about the ceasefire and release of hostages. But let's first take it from what we know of Hamas's statement yesterday.
Right. Yeah, so Hamas made an announcement yesterday they are delaying the next hostage release because of Israel's violation of the truce details. We know, obviously, Israel has claimed in the past that Hamas is violating, and there were some violations. But also, if you want to look at the Israeli side, it was a violation with respect to the fact that Israel was supposed to send negotiation team on day 16, more than a week ago. Last Monday. It was a day after Netanyahu left the country to the United States. He's been there almost a week. And during that week, or almost a week, Netanyahu did not want to send the team, which was a violation of the deal. And that is a major breach on the Israeli side. But we think that the reason for the Hamas statement yesterday is not just that the breach about the team that was not sent. It's actually they claim that Israel did not provide enough tents, enough these semi-mobile homes that Israel was supposed to send in, and they also say that Israel did not provide enough gas, and the trucks are not in the trucks in the northern part of Gaza are not in the number that was agreed on, and so on. Most of those claims Israel denied them. But we do know that with respect to the mobile homes, Israel did not provide it because of chain supply problem or stuff like that. They were supposed to be arriving from elsewhere. We don't know all the details. It's quite sketchy, I have to tell you. But I do know for a fact that these claims they're not new. They've been on the ground for like 2.5, 3 weeks. And in Israel, they were trying to sort of ignore them, but you can't really ignore that. It's if it's breaking the deal. So that's a major concern.
Tal, let me ask you this. Do you think that it's an excuse, that it's something on Hamas's end about not finding hostages, not knowing where they are, not having enough live hostages? Do you think that could be part of it?
Well, listen, it's not like I'm talking to the Hamas, but I've been talking to people who were talking to the Qatari. And they don't think it's an excuse. They think it's a real thing because they want Israel to be obliged by whatever was written. I mean, Israelis can be upset about humanitarian aid as much as they want to, but it's in the details of the agreement, and the agreement is very, very detailed. And also, there is also a problem here. I mean, from my sources, the Hamas was about to not release the hostages last Saturday because of this breach. So they were on the verge of not completing the agreement already a couple of days ago. And now when the announcement came on a Monday, the assumption in Israel, it's that they gave Israel enough time between Monday to the next Saturday to fix it. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is maybe the Qatari are also upset. Up until now, the Qatari were kind of holding Hamas together. Don't breach the deal. Don't stop. Keep releasing the people. Now the Qatari may be coming up to the United States, and I'm being very cautious here because it's a problematic thing to report. But they may be coming to the United States, and they say, listen, you have to keep Israel really on the deal unless we are unable to keep it going.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then from there, go to President Trump and the statements that he makes. Now, we all know that he likes to make a lot of statements and a lot of comments all the time throughout the day. But then he makes this latest statement, which is release all of them by Saturday or the ceasefire is off. So then what are we to take from that, in your opinion, Tal?
He actually gave a really specific deadline, Saturday at noon. I don't know if it's an Eastern time or Israel time. Let's hope it's Israel's time. As early as possible, every minute in there is hell. But I don't think it can go into this type of an arrangement this coming Saturday because there is a deal that was signed, and we hope that we will see the rest of the deal completed. And the obligation of our leaders, and I hope they will do it, is to go into an immediate negotiation about the second phase of the deal and get the rest 22 young people out alive as fast as possible. Not maybe in one group like Trump suggested. Just don't do it in increments. Do it in a whole one-time group, 22 people, finish the whole thing. That's a good point. A good point he made.
Okay, if you had to sum up though, Tal, today, Tuesday, February 11th, thoughts about where we are in all of this, or it just remains to be seen how the day plays out?
So today on Tuesday, we have a cabinet security meeting starting in the morning in Israel time, and they are supposed to talk about the violations and the situation of the deal. And maybe there will be new conclusion about second phase. Maybe they will take on Trump's advice and will bring on the second phase in a one group of people. It will bring on the end of war, I suppose. It's a problem because the Hamas wants Israel to declare end of war. That is a big sacrifice they're unwilling to take, but, maybe with Trump pressure. So, let's hope for the best.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you, Tal. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit to the Jewish world after a quick break, so stay with us. Okay, Zev, good to have you on the Daily Briefing. So you are reporting on the World Zionist Organization, which is gearing up for its next elections held every 5 years. And as I read through your piece, it really seems to be about what kind of Jew is going to lead the Jewish world and get the budgets that are out there. So tell us what you gained from looking at this, as a kind of preview again for these elections that are in March.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. It's a funny thing about these World Zionist Congress elections, because if you ask the average American Jew on the street, they'll probably tell you they never heard of it, or maybe they don't really know much about it. But if you ask the people on the inside, they'll say this is possibly the biggest single opportunity for North American Jews to influence the future of the Jewish people, and maybe one of the most important events of the near future for world Jewry. So let's just kind of start at the beginning. What are we talking about? What are these elections? So as you mentioned, every 5 years, there's a vote where Jews around the United States can choose a slate to represent them in the World Zionist Congress. So you can vote for parties, that work for religious pluralism, or for Orthodox institutions, or for a two-state solution, or Judea and Samaria, just about every Jewish viewpoint that exists in the Jewish world. And then in the end, as with any parliament, according to the number of votes, will be the party will be the power that each party gets, and they will together get to decide how to spend an annual budget of more than $1 billion for use for the Jewish people. So just maybe to spell it out, oversimplifying it a little bit, if, for example, right-wing interests win more seats, then more of the money will go towards right-wing projects. And if left-wing parties, get more seats, then more money will go in that direction. So we're talking about a really large budget that is larger even than the money that all of the Jewish federations in North America raise together in a year. So it's kind of fair that there is a lot at stake here.
Wow, a lot at stake. So, okay, so then give us a little bit of a sense of who's in the running here, right? In other words, I know you talk about that in the story, but who, the gamut of Jewish communities or Jewish organizations and their interests. Who are they? Who are they? The people who are the groups that are running for this in this election?
This year, there are 22 parties running, which is a record number. I think in the past election, it was 13 parties running. So there's been a big bubble this year in the number of parties that are running. And there's actually kind of a lot of drama going on behind the curtains. There's a lot of the classic Jewish rivalry, perhaps, between Orthodox slates and the liberal denominations. So in the last elections, the liberal slate, by which I mean primarily the reform and conservative movements, lost kind of a lot of territory to the Orthodox. And for the first time, they were pushed into the minority of the election. So this was a function of a few factors. First of all, maybe that not enough of their constituents actually showed up to vote. And there's also the entrance of a new ultra-Orthodox party that kind of came in out of nowhere and won 25 out of the 152 seats that are allotted to the U.S. parties. So that kind of disrupted the existing balance of power and changed things, kind of creating some tension and drama within the Congress. So I think the first drama going on in this coming election is who's going to, win this time between these two great forces. Then on the religious right wing itself, there's a different challenge that's kind of evolving. So whereas it used to be that it was mainly the Mizrahi slate that represented Orthodox Jewry in the Zionist Congress, now there's, I think, 7 different parties all representing the right-wing, Orthodox parties, with their whatever different angles they have. So, whenever you get a playing field getting crowded like that, there's always the danger of a divide and conquer, and everyone's going to have their say diluted, and, no one's going to have power. So that's a significant threat that the Orthodox side is facing. So there is, again, kind of a lot at stake, and, the trick is for people to get out and vote.
And so then, Zev, does the fact that there is such a larger showing from the Orthodox end of the Jewish spectrum, does that essentially say that there is much more influence, that there is much more, that the Orthodox world is essentially showing up more in the Jewish world itself? In other words, that the Jewish world is swaying in that direction, that Reform and Conservative are not as prominent, and the Orthodoxy and all of the various streams in Orthodoxy are much more prominent?
I'm not sure. I think there is an element that this kind of is the way that, Israeli Jewry has gone. Right now we have Israel has its most right-wing government in history. And, and there's more of these right-wing parties, coming to power with their different interests. Again, whether it's or ultra-Orthodox Haredi Jewry or the settler Judean Samaria Jewry. One of the interesting developments is that one of the right-wing parties has connections with evangelical Christians, and this is a party, the Israel 365 Action Party, which has long worked with the Israeli evangelicals, which have always been a great friend of Israel, and now they're working with them. But then there's a fear of this is the Zionist Congress for Jews, not for Christians, and how much is that going to affect how the elections play out? So there are a lot of sub-interests and dramas within this.
And just as we're talking about this, I just want to mention another piece that you have on the site right now about the Orthodox Union, which is an American organization that has had a presence, as you've written in the piece, in Israel for 47 years, but now it's investing a lot more resources for North American immigrants in Israel who are certainly familiar with the OU, and they're really upping their activity here. And that, in a sense, plays into what you're talking about here about the WZO and about orthodoxy in the WZO, in a sense. Just give us a couple of lines about what that's about. What is happening with the OU in Israel?
The Orthodox Union, which is, one of North America's largest Orthodox institutions, has made the strategic decision to increase its presence in Israel. So the OU is best known for its kashrut supervision of food products, but they have a lot of different institutions, including the NCSY Youth Movement, Yachad, which is an organization for individuals with disabilities, and JLIC, the Jewish Learning Initiative on campus for college students. So they've got a lot of different projects going on. In Israel, the OU opened its doors 47 years ago. First with kind of a drop-in center for NCSY alumni, but now it's a massive network, which includes many Torah classes, social programs, volunteering, and much more, kind of throughout the entire English-speaking immigrant community throughout Israel. So, the event that we talked about last week was that the OU has moved its Israel headquarters from its iconic building on Keren HaYesod Street in central Jerusalem to a bigger office in the Har Chotzvim Industrial Park, kind of on the outskirts of Jerusalem. So part of the reason this was all done is because the OU staff, grew, as 400 employees, and the old building couldn't hold them anymore. But there's also the fact that the OU is pursuing a more decentralized growth strategy where they'll be involved a lot more in local communities, but have less of a need for a central home.
Thank you very much, Zev, for that update. Obviously, we'll keep on following what happens with the WZO elections. And thank you both. Thank you, Tal, and thank you, Zev, for being on today's Daily Briefing. We will be back again tomorrow with another installment. This episode is produced by the Podwaves. Any comments, you can always email us, podcast@timesvisual.com. Until next time, take care and be well. See you soon.